The Senate Committee on Housing and Human Services is called to order, albeit a tiny bit late. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chairman Irwin.
Here.
Senator Santana. Senator Kavanaugh. Senator Bayer. Senator Schenk. Senator Chang. Senator Cherry. Senator Geis. Senator Lindsay. Senator Hoytinga. Senator DeMoose. Mr. Chairman, you have 10 members present. There is a quorum.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the June 3rd, 2025 committee meeting minutes. Motion made by Senator Santana. Without objection, the minutes are adopted. And it looks like we do not need a motion to excuse any absent members, so that's not necessary. Just want to let members know the goal today is going to be to hopefully quickly move on the 4 bills from Senator Anthony that we heard last week, and then to have a hearing about food assistance in Michigan and some of the challenges that those who need that assistance and provide that assistance are having. So with that, I want to move along on the agenda. We did hear testimony about Senate Bills 19 through Senate Bill 22 at our June 3rd meeting. If there are any additional questions or comments, I would entertain those now. All right, seeing none, I want to ask the clerk to read any additional testimony cards we have received.
Okay, so not wishing to speak in support of Senate Bills 19 through 22, Mariah Walton from the City of Ann Arbor. The following are cards in opposition to Senate Bills 19 through 21. Not wishing to speak opposing the bill, Brad Ward from Michigan Realtors. Not wishing to speak opposing the bill is Jim Kirsch from the Property Management Association of Michigan. Not wishing to speak opposing the bill is Erica Farley from Rental Property Owners Association. Not wishing to speak opposing the bill is Holly Tateman from the Apartment Association of Michigan. And not wishing to speak opposing the bill is Todd Skowronski, I'm so sorry, from the Community Association Institute, the Michigan chapter. The following are in support of Senate Bill 22. Not wishing to speak in support, Jim Kirsch from the Property Management Association of Michigan. Not wishing to speak supporting the bill, Holly Tateman from the Apartment Association of Michigan. And not wishing to speak supporting the bill, Erica Farley from the Rental Property Owners Association.
Thank you for that, and I want to let all those who put in cards know that we'll continue to work with both from my office and the sponsor's office on these bills. And I also want to remind everybody that we did have testimony last week on a sub for Senate Bill 19, which hopefully we will be moving to adopt now. So seeing no further testimony, I will entertain a motion to adopt the S1 version of Senate Bill 19. Motion made by Senator Kavanaugh. Will the clerk please call the question?
Chairman Irwin?
Yes.
Senator Santana?
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Senator Bayer?
Yes.
Senator Schenk?
Yes.
Senator Chang?
Yes.
Senator Cherry?
Yes.
Senator Geis?
Yes.
Senator Lindsay?
Yes.
Senator Hoytinga?
Yes.
Senator DeMoose? Mr. Chairman, there are 11 yeas and 0 nays. The substitute is adopted.
Thank you very much. I'll now entertain a motion to report the S1 version of Senate Bill 19 to the floor with a recommendation that then pass. Motion made by Senator Bayer. Will the clerk please call the question?
Chairman Irwin?
Yes.
Senator Santana?
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Senator Bayer?
Yes.
Senator Schenk?
Yes.
Senator Chang? Senator Cherry?
Yes.
Senator Geis?
Yes.
Senator Lindsay?
No.
Senator Hoytinga? Senator DeMoose?
No.
Mr. Chairman, there are 8 yeas and 3 nays. The bill is reported.
Thank you. I'll now entertain a motion to report Senate Bill 21 to the floor with recommendation that the bill then pass. Motion made by Senator Schenk. Will the clerk please call the question?
Chairman Irwin?
Yes.
Senator Santana?
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Senator Bayer? Senator Schenk?
Yes.
Senator Chang? Senator Cherry?
Yes.
Senator Geis? Senator Lindsay?
No.
Senator Hoytinga? Senator DeMoose? Mr. Chairman, there are 8 yeas and 3 nays. The bill is reported.
Thank you very much. I'll now entertain a motion to report Senate Bill 22 to the floor with the recommendation that the bill then pass. Motion made by Senator Chang. Will the clerk please call the question?
Chairman Irwin?
Yes.
Senator Santana?
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Senator Bayer?
Yes.
Senator Schenk?
Yes.
Senator Chang?
Yes.
Senator Cherry?
Yes.
Senator Geis?
Yes.
Senator Lindsay?
No.
Senator Hoytinga? Senator DeMoose?
No.
Mr. Chairman, there are 8 yeas and 3 nays. The bill is reported.
Thank you very much.
You didn't do 20.
We didn't do 20?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll now entertain a motion to report Senate Bill 20 to the floor with recommendation that the bill then pass. Motion made by Senator Cherry. Will the clerk please call the question?
Chairman Irwin?
Yes.
Senator Santana?
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Senator Bayer?
Yes.
Senator Schenk?
Yes.
Senator Chang?
Yes.
Senator Cherry?
Yes.
Senator Geis?
Yes.
Senator Lindsay?
No.
Senator Hoytinga? Senator DeMoose? Mr. Chairman, there are 8 yeas and 3 nays. The bill is reported.
Thank you. And I do want to let the members know, because I know that some of you have other committees that may run over this one, that's going to be the last bills that we vote on today. But we do have a number of important presentations and testimony around food assistance in Michigan. And I don't know if you've heard about it in your district, but I've been getting a lot of commentary about this. And so I do want to provide more rather than less opportunity for providers and other folks who are concerned about this issue to speak out. So this hearing might go a little bit longer than usual, and I just wanted to let members know that there wasn't going to be further voting. And so I'm planning on moving along, but if members have questions, I'm happy to entertain them at this time, because it looks like maybe there's some confusion.
We
Senator
might have gotten, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I move that we reconsider the vote by which Senate Bill 22 was
Senate Bill 22? We did vote on 22. We voted on all of them, and they were out of order. Yeah. You what?
It was our mistake.
No, I took them out of order. I'm happy to do it. I just don't know. I feel like, are folks, does someone vote a way they didn't intend it? Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right. I just wanted to clarify that. No, I appreciate it. So, Senator Lindsay moves to reconsider the vote by which Senate Bill 22 was reported, and if there's no objection, without objection, we will reconsider that vote. So, do I need to entertain a new motion on that? Entertain a motion from Senator Lindsay to report Senate Bill 22 to the floor with recommendation that the bill then pass. Motion made by Senator Lindsay. Will the clerk please call the question?
Chairman Irwin?
Yes.
Senator Santana?
Yes.
Senator Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Senator Baer?
Yes.
Senator Schenck?
Yes.
Senator Chang?
Yes.
Senator Cherry?
Yes.
Senator Geis?
Yes.
Senator Lindsay?
Yes.
Senator Hoytinga?
Yes.
Senator DeMoose?
Yes.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, there are 11 yeas, 0 nays. Senate Bill 22 is reported.
Yeah, thank you, members, and I did take those out of order, so I'm probably to blame for that. That's what I'm trying to say. It's actually my fault. I'm happy to entertain motions for reconsideration, even if it's not my fault, but this time I think I should just take credit for that. All right, so once again, going back to the topic of today, which is a presentation regarding cuts and proposed cuts to food assistance in Michigan, and I've already mentioned to members that we're going to try to accommodate as many people as we can today, but there's a tremendous amount of interest in talking about this subject. First, we're going to start with a presentation from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. We have Dwayne Haywood, who's the Senior Deputy Director of the Economic Stability Administration, and I believe you're going to also be joined by Dr. James Bell, who is the Chief Staff of the Public Health Administration. Perhaps Dr. Bell will come later. Oh, Dr. Bell is going to join you here at the podium. Thank you. So please, gentlemen, take it away and offer your presentation for the committee. Appreciate your time today.
And just to clarify, I'm Dr. Bell, and this is Dwayne Haywood.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Make sure I'm good. Am I able to advance slides? Thank you. Good afternoon, members of the Senate Housing and Human Services Committee. My name is Dr. James Bell III. I am the Chief of Staff for the Public Health Administration within the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. And I'm representing Dr. Sarah Lyon Callow, Senior Deputy Director, who's unable to join us today as she is attending a previously scheduled conference engagement. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all in her place and to share MDHHS's perspective on the Women, Infant, and Children's Program here in Michigan and potential impacts by federal changes. I want to start off with answering exactly what is WIC. The Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, commonly known as WIC, is a 100% federally funded program by the USDA and administered by states and local agencies. WIC offers 4 main services: individualized nutrition education and counseling, access to supplemental foods tailored to meet nutritional needs, breastfeeding promotion and support, referrals to healthcare and other social services. Each month, more than 200,000 moms, babies, and children less than age 5 receive nutritious foods from the Michigan WIC program. Participants receive monthly food benefits, which can be used at authorized grocery stores, pharmacies, and farmers markets. The WIC food package is not a general grocery allowance. It includes specific foods that align with nutritional guidelines. This includes whole grains, fruits and vegetables, milk and dairy products, infant formula, and baby foods as appropriate, and iron-fortified cereals. These foods are selected based on scientific evidence to address common nutritional gaps during pregnancy, infancy, and early childhood. WIC serves pregnant, postpartum, and breastfeeding women, as well as infants and children up to age 5. To qualify, individuals must meet income guidelines, typically at or below 185% of the federal poverty level, and live in the state where they apply. Eligibility is not limited to biological parents. Caregivers, guardians, and foster parents can enroll children who meet age and income criteria. This flexibility ensures that children remain eligible regardless of who provides their care. We often serve multi-generational households, kinship caregivers, and families navigating complex circumstances. WIC's eligibility structure is designed to be inclusive of those realities. Eligibility criteria help ensure that WIC reaches those who can benefit most during critical stages of growth and development. As program administrators, we work to ensure that those guidelines are applied consistently and accessibly so that families are supported and not discouraged when seeking services. The WIC program consistently reaches three key populations: pregnant women, breastfed infants, and children up to age 5, including a significant number of 4-year-olds. Understanding these participation patterns helps inform staffing, outreach strategies, food cost forecasting, and budgeting. Over the last 5 years, participation among pregnant women has ranged between roughly 16,000 and 17,400 annually. This reflects steady program demand in this population. Participation among breastfed infants dropped to just over 6,000 in 2021, but we've seen a gradual increase each year, reaching over 7,600 by 2025. The data shows a trend in which many participants remain in WIC for one or more life stages, beginning in pregnancy, continuing through infancy, and into early childhood. Disruptions at any stage can impact retention and long-term outcomes. Decades of research demonstrate that WIC participation is associated with fewer fetal deaths, reduced infant mortality, and a lower incidence of low birth weight deliveries. These outcomes are especially critical during pregnancy and early life, when nutrition has a significant impact on long-term health. WIC participation is linked to higher immunization rates, in part due to health education and referrals provided during visits. This shows WIC's role in connecting families to broader preventive services. WIC food benefits are often redeemed at authorized local grocery stores and pharmacies, returning federal dollars directly to local communities. This generates both a public health and an economic benefit, supporting families while contributing to local food system stability. And while program standards and funding are set at the federal level, state and local agencies are responsible for the day-to-day administration, vendor management, and outreach. Any potential federal cuts in food dollars not only impacts WIC participants and their families in providing healthy and nutritious foods, but directly correlates to reduced WIC redemptions for Michigan retailers, negatively impacting their business and bottom lines. Potential reductions in federal administrative funding may lead to staff reductions at the state level. One area of particular concern is the WIC vendor section, which provides technical assistance, compliance monitoring, and onboarding to our nearly 1,400 WIC vendors across the state. These vendors are essential to ensuring WIC families have consistent access to food benefits. The cash value benefit allows WIC participants to purchase fruits and vegetables each month. We are monitoring federal decisions that affect CVB cash value benefit levels, as changes could impact dietary and quality and participant satisfaction. Many WIC participants qualify through adjunct eligibility based on enrollments in programs like Medicaid, SNAP, and TANF. Cuts to those programs could create indirect barriers to WIC access and require additional documentation from families. In the event of constrained funding or program caps, MDHHS may need to consider caseload management strategies, including the use of wait lists, which is a significant shift for a program designed to provide preventive services early in life. Again, federal policy decisions shape the scope, reach, and reliability of WIC at the state level. Continued support and funding stability are key to maintaining the public health outcomes that WIC has consistently delivered for over 50 years.
Thank you, Dr. Bell. Appreciate it. Good afternoon. My name is Dwayne Haywood. I'm the Senior Deputy Director for the Economic Stability Administration. My administration, of course, oversees the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is known as SNAP. So I wanted to start off, again, what is SNAP? SNAP provides benefits to low-income families to support their grocery budget so they can afford the number of food essential to the health and well-being. SNAP funding. Currently, SNAP is 100% federally funded. With the proposed changes, it certainly will have a benefit, an impact on what we do and what we actually spend. And so wanted to just talk a little bit about the error rate. You hear a lot about the error rate, and so I wanted to unpack the error rate. As you can see, we have made substantial progress through the years. In FY25, we're down to 8.56. But what that entails, that error rate, is number one, it is the agency error, but it's also some of our customers, our resident errors. And so that is a key point. And then also we look at we hear a lot of talk about overpayment, but we also have underpayment. So we take care of the underpayment, but again, that's considered an error. Another quick example is a homeless population, where our homeless have no address, and they use the MDHHS office. And so if a homeless person drops off an application and we don't get that application on the seventh day in the expedited FAP, it is an error. So just wanted to give that context. I mean, it is a lot. It's just not the agency error. It is a combination of a couple of areas. And so we wanted to just unpack that. And again, our clients, as you can see, the client error, not turning information in a timely manner, do contribute to some of the errors that we do see. One of the things that we are looking at the changes is, of course, the workload. If we make those changes, if those cuts are realized, then we are going to have to make some adjustments. Again, we talk about the increase in the reporting. That's going to increase our data entry, and so that's going to play a significant role as we go forward. Again, talking about the error rate and the consistent downward trajectory that we continue to work towards, and we'll continue to work towards. But as you can see, we have some upcoming enhancements that we think that's going to continue with this progress, and that is in the verification, the artificial intelligence technology that's really going to help us. And then we want to pre-fill some of our applications. And so our specialists toggle back and forth, and we want to prevent some of that toggling, and so therefore we don't have as many errors as we can. So again, wanted to make sure that we understand that we're working with the enhancements. Also, our child care, we're looking at making sure we automate in that area as well. So wanted to just kind of give you the numbers. Again, if you go back to what I talked about earlier, the error rate, 3.2 billion was issued in SNAP benefits in 2024. And if we go by the current bill as it's stated, 0 to 5.9, 5%, and as you can see, as the error rate goes up, it goes up in numbers, and that equates to the numbers. As you can see, if you get over 10%, you're talking about over $800 million that will have to be realized and will have to come out of the Michigan budget. And so we think that this is very important, but I do want to go back to the error rate and what we have to unpack, and then basically look at the error where we have also. Another piece to this, if you look at the numbers, the zero tolerance. Currently, $56 and below, it's simply not counted. But with the new bill, it will be counted. And so we anticipate about a 2% increase in the error rate. If we took it today's numbers, as you saw the numbers, 8.56, you add 2%, you're over the 10%. You're now over 800 million. And the second piece that's going to be critical is the administrative cost impact. Currently, the Michigan and the federal government shares 50-50. Under the current bill, Michigan would be on the cuff for 75%, and the federal will be 25%. That would add an additional 90 to 95 million to the cost, that administrative cost. And if you think about it, if you look at even the 5% at the minimum, 160, 95, you're up to over 200 million that would have to be realized in some of our operations. And here, again, wanted to just give you the numbers. And as you can see, where the 75%, that takes it up to 287,000. Again, I'm sorry, 287 million. I wish it was 1,000, but 287 million. And then, of course, you have the additional 95 million. So really important numbers to hear and to see. Now, a part of the bill is the able-bodied adults with dependents. Here are the able-bodied adults. It's going to change the way we actually define our dependents. The current bill is going to increase the age from 18 to 54 to 18 to 64. It's going to define or redefine the definition of what is a dependent. 7 years currently is up to 18 years, but under the new bill, it will be 7 years and under. The impact here, of course, is for single parents who may have to participate in the work requirements, second and third shifts. They will increase their cost across the board because you got daycare and you have other entities that may be a factor. And so, again, the able-bodied requirements is going to be really significant as the bill is currently written. The next area is waivers. You hear a lot about waivers, and so I just wanted to give you a little bit of the waivers. The Secretary of Agriculture is allowed to issue waivers and under certain circumstances, the circumstances being limited jobs or unemployment. Now, you hear a lot of talk about the fact that we meaning Michigan, possibly would game the system. And so here to really just talk about the waivers. The waivers are realized through a formula. That formula being 2 years, 24 months. It has to be unemployment as well as limited jobs. And it has to go into the formula before it's actually approved. So again, the waivers are going to be critical because if you have that economic downturn, you will not be able to realize if this is restricted through those waivers. So again, important. The employment and training. Again, talking about the 18 to 64 will impact mostly our seniors, a lot of our seniors from 60 to 64, and that would be an impact of over 71,000 individuals. This also would impact our Michigan Works, will increase their staffing, increase their administrative costs. So again, all of this has to be realized within the administration and within the bill. And then we hear a lot about the SNAP-Ed program, so the National Education and Obesity. We hear that our customers, our residents should be better with their budgeting, better with their food consumption, better with their healthy choices. SNAP-Ed is really an important piece. Michigan receives $27 million, and with that $27 million, it's divided up into two entities, Michigan State Extension and the National Foundation the National Foundation. And with those two entities, with that $27 million, they're able to really hit schools, clinics, all type of entities within the community to talk about those healthy choices, to talk about those fruit choices, then to talk about exercise, which ultimately will lead to a healthy life and therefore reduce our Medicaid costs. And so a double hit there. So very important. The program also realized through the community partnership, and also the proven outcomes. Again, the proven outcomes is increasing that activity, understanding budgeting, stretching your dollars, and making sure that you understand the importance of the SNAP benefits. So these are important. That SNAP-Ed, very important. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about the economy with the SNAP. Currently, 1.4 million residents are receiving SNAP as we speak today, and that equates to about 760,000 Michigan households, an average of $336. And here we have the different entities, and I won't go through all of them, but the one that sticks out for me, I'm a veteran, and so the 38,000 veterans that will be impacted. Another slide on there, the 23, if the 23% of our seniors, if received the SNAP, or if the SNAP was taken out, they would be less likely to show up in a nursing home or hospitals. So those are important numbers. And then, again, 78% of the households that are receiving SNAP are working. Again, we look at the impact on the economy. We have over 9,700 retailers. And in 2023, they redeemed $3.6 billion. And so, as you can see, that's an economic hit and will be a hit across the board, which would lead to jobs, of course, and taxes in the community. And then the impacts for the MDHHS, certainly we will have to make those adjustments with the technology, make sure when the rules are promulgated, we'll have to make sure we change. Of course, the staffing, over 3,000 eligibility specialists currently delivering the 10 million changes that we go through in a program year, 2.5 million redacts that we have to actually review, along with almost 3 million applications. So that would have an impact internally. And then also in our operations, as you know, those funds would operate and fund a lot of the vital areas in the department and across the state. So again, a huge impact on our community across the board. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation. Really appreciate a broad overview on what's happening in Michigan. And when I think about SNAP and WIC, usually what comes to mind first are, people in my community who are in need, and the food that will be going to hungry children and hungry older adults. That's the thing that comes to mind first. I've been hearing a lot of concerns about that because of the bill that passed Congress. But one of the things I really appreciate about your presentation was you really highlighted for us legislators what is a secondary impact of what's happening in Congress, which is this ticking time bomb that Congress is setting for our own state budget. If we're looking at costs in 2028 ballooning by, anywhere between maybe $300 and $800 million. That means that not only are we imperiling the ability to get that food into the mouths of those hungry kids and those hungry older adults, but we're also imperiling, all that money that's coming into our state that's running through cash registers that support our economy, and we're putting our budget in a situation here at the state level where I just shudder at the opportunities that we will not be able to take on as a state if we are forced to spend hundreds of millions of dollars more because of how Congress is changing this program that's been so useful and successful in our state. So with that, I want to recognize Senator Bayer for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you both for being here today. This is just such an important thing that we're talking about. So the errors are obviously a huge part of the equation, and obviously we've been improving that. I guess as I'm hearing about the administrative costs and the reductions because of the lack of funding, what's that going to do to errors? That could just explode the formula, right? If errors are going to go up because of administrative costs going down, are we going to be able to pay for the system upgrades that we need to continue to do to improve that error rate? And we're going to cut instead? Is it going to go up? What's going to happen?
Yes, that's going to be a huge challenge for us. Again, if you look at the error rate, and again, we are making substantial progress, but when you start looking at the administrative downsides, we are going to have to make some adjustments, and then that would certainly improve, not improve, but it certainly will tie into that error rate, which could explode. And then it would tie right back into the administrative costs that would go up, that 25%.
How are the errors typically identified?
They're identified through a number of ways. One of the big ones is our case reads. We have special teams reading. We have our specialists reading. We have an actual FAP team that goes behind reads. And so we try to really dive into as many of the areas as we can, and then we focus in on the main areas that we are simply falling short on, and we zero in on those areas. And that's one of the reasons why we are driving it down. But again, the technology is important, but it's costly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Bayer. Next, I'll recognize Senator Chang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you both for your really important work and this presentation. I think it's really inhumane to deprive people of food, and so I appreciate the presentation and also the numbers that you provided around our kids and seniors and others who are going to be impacted if things happen at the federal level on this issue. And with all of those numbers, those are real people who have stories and struggles that they're facing. You touched on this a little bit, but I was wondering if you can talk a little bit more about it. Obviously, probably the deepest impact would be the people who are currently receiving SNAP benefits, but I'm wondering if you can talk more about the impact as well on the people who harvest our food, who make our food, who run our grocery stores where we're getting that food, and if there's been some analysis around what the impact will be, especially here in Michigan, for our local farmers.
Yes, I appreciate that question, and it definitely will be an impact from the farmers all the way to the groceries. I talked a little bit about the retailers with the 9,700, and certainly it's going to be an impact. If they redeem $3.6 billion, then you can only imagine the cost that to bring the food to market. It will be a cost. It will be a devastating piece that will come from the farmers, and then if the farmers begin to reduce in order to make up for the cost, then it's all going to be cascaded down all the way back to the farmers. But and that will certainly hurt us as we try to instruct and not instruct, but help our residents understand healthy eating. The fruits, the vegetables that have to come out from the farmer, that would be greatly reduced. And then the farmers' markets in every one of the communities would be greatly impacted.
Thank you, Senator Chang. Next, I'll recognize Senator Schenk.
Thank you. This is kind of a three-part comment/question, so please bear with me. The first is, it seems like in our state, there's a situation where we have a lot of families who are working at jobs where they're not earning enough to actually pay for their basic needs. Would that be a correct statement? Would you say in general?
In general, yes.
Okay, thank you. So I find that disturbing that then the state would cut people's benefits that would allow them to continue working and also meet their basic needs. The second thing I want to say is that we don't have a lot of stories from before SNAP, and I do. Mostly I heard these stories when my dad, who experienced this, was really mad at me, and he'd kind of let his guard down and talk about some things that were ugly. And that's part of how we get intergenerational trauma. And I carry some of that every day with me, which is why my voice sounds the way it does right now. My dad's family was so poor that they often didn't have enough food to eat. And I've heard that from him when he was yelling at me about how great I had it and how I didn't appreciate what all I had because he had a decent job that paid for our needs. And I heard it from his cousins who would eat less to make sure that my dad had enough food. And I also heard from some of the people in the family, and this is a white family growing up in Detroit, that, not different probably from a lot of our ancestors, that some of the family members would engage in illegal activity to try to bring home enough money to help the family not starve. And I think one of my concerns is that when we push people, I'm okay, I'm not crying, I just have a little bit of a crack in my voice. But when we push people to the brink, they will do what they need to do to survive. And I know that that happened in my family. And it wasn't that there weren't able-bodied people in the household who could work. There were, and they did work. But they didn't get paid enough to meet the basic needs of the family. And so the family had to do what it could do to survive. And I will tell you, as the daughter of somebody who went through that, who saw the incredible damage that it did to my dad, and who knows the damage that it did to me, that I still do carry every day, we don't want to do that to our people, do we? Thank you. I had to add a question in there. So the last thing I want to say is that I met a young woman with a baby last summer, cute baby, really nice lady, And she had left an abusive spouse. This was a person who was trying really hard to have a nuclear family, the kind some people like to profess is the best thing. But it wasn't for her family because one of the members of that family was abusive to the other two. And this person had gotten SNAP and some other benefits, and that was allowing her to start over, to have a safe family where her child could grow up in safety and love and enough. And so for that family, for so many families in Michigan, I want to say how important these benefits are for so many reasons and from so many different directions. And I want to ask anybody who is considering supporting cutting these benefits, think again about all the damage that it's going to do that is impossible to rectify ever, no matter how much we do. So just thank you.
Thank you, Senator Schenk. I'll recognize next Senator Santana.
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation. You know, I was thinking about all the families in my district who are living below the poverty level. And to your point, Senator Schenk, I remember, you know, my grandparents had 10 children. My grandfather worked at Ford as a janitor, and they had to find a way to make ends meet. So my grandmother sold fish dinners or food on Fridays or whatever she could do to make opportunities for her children. So I do respect that and do think that a lot of families have grown up on government cheese and powdered milk, just as I did with the mattress on the floor and one chair at the kitchen table. So I do understand that sentiment as well. I think about our district right now. We just had a meeting yesterday, and, you know, just looking at the Brightmoor community where you have a family, maybe of a mom and several children who's living on $27,000 a year. And when we think about this conversation, we're thinking about, you know, SNAP benefits and WIC being available to those families just to offset that small amount of money, $2,000 a month, which they have to survive off of. Mind you, car insurance and everything else is high, and rent is too damn high. So I think that these programs are really important to our communities, especially here in Michigan. But my question to you all is, what if are any strategies being considered to mitigate some of these adverse effects that are happening at the federal level right here in Michigan? What are we doing to try to find opportunities within the DHHS budget to help support or mitigate some of this risk?
Thank you for the question. In many ways, we've been working closely with our local partners. And so in what ways can we engage our local health departments where our WIC offices are? When we think about some of our community-based organizations, are there additional tasks and responsibilities that they can take on? And that's an uncomfortable conversation to have, to say that we want to push more work out to the communities when we want communities to be able to benefit from the services that we offer. So in acknowledging that if services go away, we want those services to continue at some level, at some capacity, trying to build up the ability for our local partners to do that work in the absence of the state if that were to ever become a reality.
And I will just add to that, just continuing with the partnership, making sure that our partners understand what the impact is, and also giving those ideas that they see for us internally for the department. We continue to just really monitor and really strategize on what we could do, what we may do, but we haven't actually landed on a strategy going forward at this point.
Okay. Well, it sounds like it's an opportunity for us to work on some things. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Santana, and thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation. Really, I'm sorry, I've got one more question from Senator Lindsay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here. I just want to take the opportunity. Another conversation we've seen at the federal level, but also working with states, is there seems to be a desire by some, especially within SNAP, to promote reforms that would make sure that that second letter in the acronym, nutrition, is actually the focus. And so one of the efforts, for example, is making sure that the resources provided through SNAP are not used to buy things that are not, in fact, nutritional. And I just wonder, since we have the opportunity with you here, thanks again for being here, what do you think about that concept? We've got potential at a state level to request waivers on this topic and then work with the federal government. Is this something you've worked on, or you could give us some insight on pros and cons?
Yes, Senator, we continue to focus on the nutrition a part of the SNAP. And so that SNAP ad, I talked a little bit about SNAP ad, critically important with the 27 million, and didn't really with the education. And so I think if we continue to work towards educating and making sure that we focus in on fruits, vegetables, how to budget, how to stretch, and within the actual SNAP regulations, it's defined what can and cannot be purchased. So we'll continue to look at that and monitor and work with our federal partners.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm sure those conversations will continue. Next, I'll recognize Senator Geis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you both for your presentations. I just wanted to bounce off of Senator Lindsay's question in terms of were those restrictions to occur, how it would be possible to make sure that, because I think often because these are the families that are using these benefits, they are trying to, even with the SNAP Ed education, maximize they're stretching the dollar value of their benefits, which means, and anyone who does the grocery shopping for their household knows a container of juice, like freshly squeezed juice, costs much more than Tang. Do they? I don't know. They still make Tang? Yeah. Then okay. And I just dated myself. Sorry. And so in some cases, we've done things like at farmers markets in the summertime, double up food bucks for people to be able to use those dollars at the farmers market, not just at the grocery store. So how would we make sure that while we are being punitive in one sense and saying you can't make sure that you are getting something into your family, and being able so that they can see and feel the value, like they know the value of making sure that their families have more nutritious food. But what happens when you've got a household of adolescents and that container of milk is gone in 2 days because they had cereal and they drank the milk, and like we know this is the reality for any family, any household. It's even that much harder for income-constrained families living on the edge. So how do we make sure that if we create this, I can't believe I'm going to say this nanny state idea of you can't eat this food because we're giving you money to get food, that we're making sure that they are going to get the value for that they need to be able to get that nutritious food into their household?
And that's a great question. But again, I think that we have to work with our federal partners and just try to make sure that we understand what is healthy, what we can get away with as far as healthy foods. And we have to stick with our budgeting, how to stretch your dollars, the double up bucks, all of the different strategies. We'll have to deploy all the strategies if indeed these cuts are realized.
Thank you, Senator Geis, and I want to thank the department again for your presentation. I want to let members and future testifiers know that we gave a lot of time to the department because we just love the department. We have to work with them all the time. But I hope the folks on the rest of this list can try to keep it a little tighter so that we can get as many people as possible in. So I want to thank Mr. Haywood and Dr. Bell again. And next, I want to invite Monique Stanton, who is the president and CEO of the Michigan League for Public Policy. Thank you for joining us, and please offer your testimony for the committee.
Great. Thank you so much for having us today. Good afternoon, Chair Irwin and members of the Senate Housing and Human Services Committee. I'm Monique Stanton, the President and CEO of the Michigan League for Public Policy. Our full written comments are provided to you today. I won't be reading all of them. So access to food, as you know, is critical to the health and well-being of Michiganders, especially at a time when costs are so high and families are struggling. Federal cuts could cost Michigan anywhere between $760 million to $900 million per year to maintain the same level of benefits to Michigan families. 92% of Americans say they are concerned about the price of food and consumer goods, and most say that high food costs in recent years have made healthy eating difficult. SNAP caseloads are high compared to pre-pandemic, having risen by 21% for the state and much more for specific communities. In 30 counties with the highest percentage of people who use SNAP, 26 are rural. In our state, nearly 13,500 workers in grocery and related industries earn a collective $1 billion in wages every year because of SNAP. SNAP is linked to $2 billion in total output across industries, as well as $148 million in federal, state, and local taxes. SNAP cuts are deeply unpopular across the country, including Michigan, with recent polling showing that 89% of voters believe SNAP funding should be maintained or increased. Taking away food does nothing to help people find jobs more quickly. Instead, it punishes people who are actually working with unnecessary red tape. And with hunger on the rise and our local food banks already straining to meet needs in our community, this will make things much more difficult. When we in this room talk about numbers in the millions and billions every day, it is really easy to lose sight of the impact of these cuts will have on real people and communities. I've shortened our normal lengthy presentations that are really data focused to my verbal testimony today, so you can really hear directly from people and providers and organizations that are on the ground and will directly experience these cuts. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for your very brief coverage of a very important issue and hitting some of the high points. Are there members of the committee who have any questions for Ms. Stanton? I think that so many questions were asked of the department that folks are trying to move us along. And as I prattle on here, I'm trying to give the clerk a little bit of time to switch over to Zoom. So please, because I think our next testifier, and in fact, the next group of testifiers are going to be residents who use food assistance. And I think it's perhaps the most important testimony that we can hear here in committee is directly from people who are receiving food assistance here in Michigan. So as soon as we are ready, I want to make sure that Kathleen Hurd is ready, but I don't know if we are ready from a technical standpoint. Are we? It looks like we are ready from a technical standpoint. So Ms. Hurd, are you hearing me?
Yes, I hear you.
All right. Thank you for joining us today. If you could offer your testimony to the committee, it would be greatly appreciated. And if you didn't hear my previous urgings, try to keep it into 3 to 5 if you can.
No, I will. Thank you. And thank you all for allowing me to come before you today. My name is Kathleen Hurd. I live here in Detroit in the Brightmoor community. And for the last 10 years now, I've been raising my grandchildren, a boy who was 15, a girl who is now 16. So they were like 6 and 5 when I first began raising them. And the years have been very hard because when you have children that you are taking care of and you are not legally a guardian, you don't receive any benefits, any money benefits. So every bit that you get goes into what they need to have. And often we get $390 worth of stamps per month, which makes it $130 a month for each of us to eat. My grandson can eat $130 himself in a day. So trying to make ends meet from month to month is difficult. And if they are cut, it'll be extremely difficult. And to have, as a parent, you try not to put the stress and the concerns of adulthood on children, and they're still children even though they're becoming young adults. So to have to possibly say to my grandchildren, well, we either have to eat or not have a place to live, or we have to eat or not be able to get you those shoes you need, or whatever it is that they need, or to be able to have some kind of activities that they can do. in their free time is very concerning to me. And to not be able to have the things that teenagers like, snacks and things like that, to not be able to purchase those items unless I purchase it with money, will be a little bit harder as well. So I'm asking and praying that my benefits are not, or no, anyone's benefits are not cut to the point where it causes stress on not just me, but children who are growing into adulthood and shouldn't be bothered with those things. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time, Ms. Hurd. I really appreciate your testimony. And I have one question for you, which is that it sounds to me like, when you stepped up to raise these young people, you said I think you said you got them at age 6 and now they're at age 15 and 16. And if I understand the proposal from Congress would mean that food assistance would get cut off if they were older than 7. And so I guess my question for you, Ms. Hurd, is, would it have made it more challenging, and could it possibly have affected your decision to step up and care for these young people if you knew that you were not going to be getting $130 a month, which seems like a pitiful budget, per person in your household? But talk about how it would affect your ability to even step up for these young people if food assistance was cut off at age 7.
Well, I would have done it regardless, because to see them in the system was not going to happen. I was not going to allow that. So I would have done the best I could. I don't know what would be, but I would have done the best I could, like I've had to do anyway. So it wouldn't have stopped that. No, I don't want to see any child not be able to eat. So I will always do what I have to do, but I shouldn't have to do that just to live. I shouldn't have to have restraints put on me just to live. I'm disabled. So it's not like I can go out and work. And at 64, it's almost time for me not to work. So, but to make the decision, take a child in that needs love and compassion and safety as compared to putting them in foster care where a whole lot of other things could happen, that's a no-brainer for me, but
yeah,
it would still have been difficult.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hurd. Are there other members of the committee who have any questions? Seeing none, I want to thank you again for your testimony. Next, I want to call on Melissa Miles. Ms. Miles, are you with us here on Zoom now?
I am, yes, sir.
All right, so thank you for joining us. If you could offer your testimony to the committee, we appreciate it.
Okay, well, thank you for showing me the opportunity to speak with you today. I am Melissa Miles, and I'm a resident of Hillsdale County in Southeast Michigan. 43% of the families in Hillsdale County cannot afford basic expenses, and the American dream is just surviving. I, like many others in my county, face adversities of single parenthood and economic insecurity. We are trying to navigate out of survival and into security, but this navigation pathway is only possible because of the USDA programs like SNAP to supplement our income. SNAP benefits provide nourishment to our children and to ourselves, and to help us become more productive in society and cultivate security. I'm a full-time student at Eastern Michigan University with a double major in social work and women's and gender studies, while raising an autoimmune compromised 4-year-old who has had to undergo several medical procedures recently. SNAP benefits are essential for ensuring that he has the nutritional needs that he needs to continue to grow in an immunity healthy manner. I was also able to learn about what foods are most important to his needs through the USD programs such as SNAP-Ed and WIC. If my family didn't have SNAP, I can't bear to think how much sicker my child would be. I'm here today asking you to think about the Michigan families like my own that are fighting to find security and to claim and for their children and for themselves without having to fear. Wondering where their next meal will come from. Please protect SNAP. for the health, and thank you for the opportunity, or for the health and the economic security of our state. And again, thank you for the opportunity for speaking with me and allowing me to share my struggles of survival with you in rural Michigan.
Thank you for sharing with us, Ms. Miles, and I'm not seeing any members who have specific questions for you, so I'll thank you again for your testimony and wish you best of luck at your program there at EMU. Next, I want to call on Samika Douglas. Is Samika Douglas available? Ms. Douglas, if you are, let us know. Hello? You know what? It looks like we're not getting your audio, Ms. Douglas, so I don't know if there's a problem on your end, but we're not hearing you. So maybe try one more time. You know what? We are not hearing you, Ms. Douglas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to someone else, and then we'll try you again here in a couple minutes. And if it doesn't work, I'm very sorry, but right now we're not hearing you. So all we see is your face. We appreciate you being with us, but if we can't hear you, we can't benefit from your testimony. So thank you for trying. I'll try you one more time and see if we can work it out. Next, I want to recognize Lakita Brown. Is Lakita Brown on Zoom for us today? Hello, please offer your testimony from the committee, and we really appreciate hearing from residents in our state who use these programs. It's probably the most important voice we can hear, in my view. Please go ahead. Well, once again, we're having problems with audio. I'm sorry, Ms. Brown, but we are having problems with audio. You know what? So it looks like the problem is probably on our end. So while we work on trying to solve our technical problems, if folks who are here to testify are able to hang around, we'll try to get you on. But let me move along to an in-person individual while we try to address our technical issues with Zoom. Caitlin Layemi? Caitlin Layemi, who's the president and CEO of the Michigan Association of United Ways. We always appreciate when our United Ways can come and talk to us about what they're saying in the community. So please take it away.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all today. My name is Caitlin Layemi. I'm the president and CEO of the Michigan Association of United Ways. I've heard many of you talk today about folks who are working but still struggle to make ends meet, which is why United Way commissions the ALICE report. It stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, Employed, and that represents families who are working above the poverty line, which we know for a family of four is $32,000. And our research finds that utilizing a conservative budget of essentials, a family of four needs $74,000 in order to make ends meet here in Michigan. By our latest estimates, more Michigan households than ever fall below that ALICE threshold. From 2019 to today, we've seen over 100,000 additional households fall below that ALICE threshold, representing 41% of the population here in Michigan. More so, we know that food is becoming an increasing burden for our ALICE families. So according to that conservative budget estimate, a basic monthly food budget for a family of four has risen by 38% since 2019. Those families are reaching out to 211, which is Michigan's free-to-use 24/7 information and referral service for all residents. And we know that last year there were over 83,000 referrals that were made for different forms of food assistance. That's the third highest need in the state behind housing and utilities, and that was a 5% increase over the last year. That's thousands of calls that are coming in for food requests. Our ALICE research also highlights the most common work and benefits problem that we've discussed today and that we're seeing on the ground. The more that low-income people work and earn, the more they are disqualified from necessary supports like SNAP, Medicaid, and child care, and it's long before they're able to achieve true financial independence. This is the benefits issue that our policymakers should be working to fix. For the same cost that Michigan could incur for SNAP under the U.S. House passed bill, we could immediately improve the lives of every ALICE household in Michigan by enacting a child tax credit or the working parents tax credit and help tens of thousands of families deal with that benefits cliff. Supporting our ALICE families will strengthen our economy and our communities, as you've heard, and we look forward to working with you. We're available to your offices to learn more about both the ALICE report and 211, and happy to help in any way that we can help your communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Before recognizing Senator Geis for a question, I just want to ask a really quick clarifying question. You said that in Michigan, for a family of four to meet basic needs, they need to earn an average of $74,000 a year.
Correct.
Now, did I hear you correct when I think what I heard you say was that 41% of the families of four in our state are under that threshold? And so I just want to take a moment to highlight just how broken our economy is, that 41% of families are working and not earning enough to live. And their employers, frankly, are expecting the taxpayers to subsidize their pitifully low wages. So I felt like I had to say that. Now I want to recognize Senator Geis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much for your testimony. I have a love-hate relationship with the Alice Report because it's just so painful, but I love that you guys do it. I just want to, I do have another question, but I want to level set for everyone because our salaries are public knowledge. $74,000 is more than what each legislator, all 148 legislators of the Michigan legislature make per year. So, like, that is, and imagine like having to feed a family of four on that. And on less than that. One of the woman who was able to testify, I think it was Ms. Hurd, had mentioned something, I want to say it's about 130 per person per month is what their specific benefit is. And I want to ask you about this disparity between not only what families actually need to earn for a family of four, and there are many families that have more than four in their household. But I did just some quick back of the cell phone calculations, which comes out to like $4 and change a day, not even per meal, but a day, which I don't understand, like, how, to me, like, we shouldn't be cutting these. If anything, we should be, well, A, making sure people have a living wage, but also making sure that people have access, because there's no way that you can, I think even if you did meal prep and froze stuff and prepared it ahead of time, assuming you had the time to be able to do that, which you don't have if you're working 2 and 3 jobs to barely make ends meet, like, this just doesn't, this is completely unfathomable and unconscionable that we are forcing people to starve on $4 and change a day. There's no way you can have a nutritious 3 meals a day. Thank God we put funding into school lunch and breakfast, right? Like, how are we, like, we just aren't, this is bonkers, and it's torturous, and all it does is cause more, this kind of cutting would only cause more trauma, and I just think that we just need to be everyone needs to urge us to not be killing our fellow members of society just because they happen to be low-wage earners. This is just, it's horrible. I could come up with many other words, but they're not polite to say.
Thank you, Senator Geis. If you'd care to offer any reactions, certainly you're welcome to do so.
Yeah, I think, what our data shows, so we utilize the USDA Thrifty Food Plan when we're looking at our food numbers, so this is by no means an extravagant food budget. And in 2023, for that family of 4, we're looking at an average a little over $1,200 a month for food costs. So there's a significant gap, and we agree that, fundamental, we know nutrition is important for how individuals thrive and how communities thrive. And so I think you bring up some really valid and important points.
Thank you again, Senator Geis. Thank you again for your testimony. Unfortunately, members, we have to take a very, very brief recess to fix this technical issue, but then we will be right back. want to call the committee back to order. I hope and expect that we have addressed the technical issues. And now I want to ask Ms. Douglas, Ms. Samika Douglas, if you're able to offer your testimony at this time. I think it's possible that Ms. Douglas, is Ms. Douglas still there? I don't see Ms. Douglas, but I do see Lakita Brown. Ms. Brown, would you attempt to offer your testimony, and hopefully our technological issues have been fixed? No, we still can't hear. All right, I'm very, very sorry. I apologize to you, Ms. Brown, and Ms. Brunson from Hope Gardens, and Samika Douglas. It looks like we're still challenged on our technology here, which is frustrating. It's great that we can more easily bring residents in, because those are the folks I really want to hear from. But let me also see if we can get some more testimony going from folks who are here in the audience. Is Eleanor Jordan still with us? Ms. Jordan is the public benefits attorney for the Michigan Poverty Law Program. And if you could offer your testimony, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm also eager to hear recipients' testimony, so I'm glad for working through the issues. Michigan Poverty Law Program is a statewide legal aid program, and we work to advance health, safety, and economic security of low-income Michiganders, as well as promoting racial justice. We are deeply concerned about the proposed cuts we've been talking about today. These programs are lifelines, especially now as grocery prices have been on the rise, and we are all aware of the studies that show that these costs have been disproportionately borne by households of Black and Latino families across our state, as they are using a higher percentage of their incomes on basic necessities and insurance, as we've discussed. Alongside the healthcare cuts that were discussed last week in the federal proposals, these federal proposals hit caregivers especially hard, and they really come from all angles. So, for example, a 62-year-old grandmother who is caring for grandchildren, freeing up parents to work, would be forced to work 20 hours a week or lose her SNAP benefits. Meanwhile, any cuts to TANF, 10% at the time, at my most recent reference, would hit childcare costs. And so all of these angles come in at caregivers and really harm them. So as legal aid attorneys, we work a lot with survivors of domestic violence, and I really want to highlight how critical these programs are for those survivors. As Senator Schenck had highlighted earlier, as one of our lawyers put it, simply placed, without these benefits, many survivors would be forced to return to their abusers just to feed their children. We worked with one survivor that was mentioned in a rural area of Berry County, for example, and when her abuser was arrested for assaulting her, he abruptly stopped paying rent. And so she faced a situation where she was facing eviction, but because of food assistance and SNAP, she was able to leave the relationship and begin again safely for her children. This is just one of many ways where we see where just a little bit can go such a long way for the clients that we work with. But just as a small investment can free a person in a way that helps them take major strides forward, we also see how the different directions that these cuts are coming in can really impact a household. Where a household has no safety net, as we've discussed, it's impossible to save money because as soon as you save any money, you are no longer eligible. And so in households that have no safety net, even a small decrease can damage stability, credit, and safety. If there's a systemic cut to benefits, then we fully expect as legal aid attorneys to see many renters no longer able to pay their rent because they're having to make that impossible choice between healthcare costs, food, and rent. And so because they're having to make that impossible choice, we believe that they will often run short in one category or the other, or maybe many at the same time. There's a lot more that I'd love to share, but we have such important voices to bring in. So I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to hear our testimony and that of the recipients, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Thank you as well for the work that you and your organization does to help people navigate sometimes the very Byzantine and complicated bureaucratic processes we set up to sometimes make it harder for people to get benefits. So I really appreciate it. I'm not seeing any. Oh, Senator Bayer.
I don't know, probably should have asked this of the HHS folks, but I was sitting here thinking about people in my district. And I saw a number a while back, it's like 40% of people getting SNAP benefits now are over 65 or disabled. That's a number, that's something very much, yeah. And I could just, what are seniors supposed to do? I mean, even getting a job at that age is almost impossible, right? It's competitive in my book, right? What do we do?
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up. And you're absolutely right, Senator. 40% of SNAP households include seniors and people with disabilities. And so these are households who are already struggling to make ends meet. As we discussed last week, they're facing cuts to healthcare, and they would also be facing, perhaps if you're under 64, you would be facing those new work requirements, needing to work 20 hours or more if you'd like to keep those benefits. And again, it's not a luxury item because you haven't been given the opportunity to save for a rainy day if this were to come along. And so I appreciate your acknowledgement, Senator, that supporting people navigating the multifaceted programs is, it's more than a full-time job. Our attorneys regularly work closely with recipients to just navigate the systems as they are today. These cuts would be devastating.
Yeah. Thank you, Senator Bayer. I can't tell you how many people I've run into in my work as a legislator who were clearly and obviously eligible, but nonetheless were made eligible through some bureaucratic fault or something like that. So, Senator Santana.
Hi, thank you for your testimony. Can you clarify your statement? You mentioned something about Blacks and Latinos that they utilize most of their income for. Can you just clarify what you were stating?
I was mentioning that the high grocery prices have impacted Black and Latinos the most, and according to a Brookings Institution study and many other studies, actually, these families are often in a position because of systemic poverty over many, many generations, where they have to use a higher percentage of their incomes on just basic necessities, as in addition to insurance, which I believe Senator mentioned earlier. That means that when grocery prices increase, those households are hit the hardest. And so even though those households are not the majority of recipients of these benefits, they are going to be the people hit hardest when cuts come along.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. It just speaks to the wage gap in this country where Blacks and Latinos are paid disproportionately lower than our white counterparts in America.
Precisely.
So it's something that we definitely need to change the narrative on. Thank you for testifying.
Thank you, Senator Santana. Thank you, Ms. Jordan. Next, I want to call up to testify Amanda Shreve, who is the Executive Director of the Michigan Farmers Market Association. Ms. Shreve, if you could please approach and offer your testimony. We appreciate you being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Irwin and members of the committee for having me. I know you've heard a lot of testimony, and there was more to be heard about the powerful impact food assistance programs have in Michigan on improving food security and food access, and doing so in a way that destigmatizes the support and allows for dignity, choice, nutrition education, and cultural relevancy to remain paramount. With brief comments today, you have my full written testimony electronically. I do want to focus in on the food retailer's perspective for just a moment. I represent the Michigan Farmers Market Association, which is a statewide member-based nonprofit. Our mission places equity at the forefront of supporting the viability of farmers and community-driven marketplaces, which connect all consumers to Michigan farms and businesses. Since our association began nearly 20 years ago, we have been focused on ensuring that all Michiganders have access to the food grown and raised right here in our state. And we work towards this mission by providing training, technical assistance, and policy advocacy to support direct marketing farmers and operators of community-driven marketplaces in ensuring they can accept food assistance benefits efficiently and effectively. This work has led Michigan to become a national leader in expanding food access through direct marketing retail sites. Currently, of the approximately 300 farmers markets operating in Michigan, more than 160 accept SNAP benefits, including at least one market in 86% of Michigan counties. Each of these markets supports an average of 16 vendors who sell SNAP-approved products, impacting an estimated 2,500 farmers and small business owners across the state. Because farmers markets are often located in areas where access to a full-service grocery store is limited, this means that markets are meeting an increased need for access to fresh, healthy produce and doing so in a way that creates real economic impact for Michigan farmers and within Michigan communities. I hope I don't need to tell you how impactful the agricultural industry is here in Michigan and how much we have to be proud of as far as what we grow. And perhaps no one exemplifies this impact more than direct marketing farmers who grow and produce food right here in Michigan and sell it directly to their neighbors. For direct marketing farmers, accepting SNAP expands their customer base, increases their sales, and allows them to serve all members of their communities. And when markets and farmers participate in SNAP, they also have the opportunity to participate in our statewide nutrition incentive program, Double Up Food Bucks, which has been mentioned here today. A program that creates a triple win, allowing families to access more fruits and vegetables, farmers to sell and grow more crops, and communities to benefit from additional economic activity generated through that program. More than 1,000 Michigan farmers benefit from this program annually, and since 2009, they have sold more than 30 million pounds of fresh fruits and vegetables to Michigan SNAP recipients. Sales from food assistance and nutrition incentive programs are extremely impactful to direct marketing farmers, and you have some figures in my testimony to further illustrate this. But this sales volume is impactful to farmers. It allows them to hire more staff, put more acres into production, extend their growing season, grow new crops, so on and so forth. And this really contributes to both the economic viability of their businesses and their own families' livelihoods. So we also know that local farmers spend more in their local economy and therefore magnify that impact. So I'll briefly wrap up to say thank you for having me here today and allowing me to highlight how Michigan residents, when they use food assistance programs, are not only feeding themselves and their families, but they're also feeding our local economy, fueling our agricultural sector, and supporting farmers and protecting farmland. So we do encourage you to consider all of these benefits when you are advocating for these programs, and hope that you will join us in advocating for these programs. If I can provide any further information or answer any questions, please let me know.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Thank you for giving a voice to the retailer's perspective, and particularly to retailers that, at least I know in my household, are some of the most beloved retailers. We love the farmers market. Everybody loves the farmers market, so it must be a lot of fun to advocate for them. I'm not seeing any questions, so I want to thank you again for your testimony, Ms. Shreve. We're going to try to get through as many people as we can, next, I want to call up AJ Fossil, the Executive Director of the Community Food Club in Grand Rapids. And I believe you're going to be joined by Lacey Duvernoy. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is AJ Fossil. I'm the Executive Director at the Community Food Club, a nonprofit grocery store located in Grand Rapids and serving all of Kent County. The Community Food Club's model is unique. Low-income individuals, our members, pay a monthly fee of $13 to shop in our grocery store, and they receive over a week's worth of food in return. In our 10-year history, we've given out over 11.5 million pounds of food, worth over $16 million. We are serving 9,500 people a month. We have a proven track record of making our community more food secure, economically secure, and healthy. But the one thing that we cannot handle is more members. Over the last 2 years, we have seen significant growth in the number of people needing food assistance in Kent County. At the Food Club, we have doubled the amount of people we're serving. What was the catalyst for this growth? SNAP cuts. When the additional SNAP benefits given as part of COVID relief were removed in 2023, we saw a 47% growth in the number of households served in 6 months.
This growth has only continued. In the last quarter, we grew another 20%. Why? Because people cannot keep up with the cost of living. And honestly, charitable food cannot keep up with it either. Charitable food programs such as food pantries, communal meals, and nonprofit grocery stores like the Food Club are reaching the limits of our ability to serve. For the first time in our 10-year history, the Food Club instituted a wait list. We started this wait list on May 1st. Today, there are 316 households on it in 6 weeks and at one organization. The need right now is greater than ever before, and we still have SNAP benefits. I think about those 316 families who are in need of food right now and today. And I think about the households who will need us if SNAP benefits are cut. The need for programs like the Food Club will only continue to increase, and we already have a wait list. Let me be clear, charitable food cannot replace SNAP. No matter how much food we get donated or how good our fundraising teams are, philanthropy cannot replace public benefits. People will go hungry if SNAP benefits are cut. I also speak to you today as a grocer. The nature of the Food Club model dictates that we must operate as a business with nonprofit outcomes. We have grocers on our board and strong ties with the food retailers in our community. I would be remiss to not bring their concerns before you today. SNAP benefits are an important source of revenue for grocery stores here in Michigan. For some of the smaller retailers, particularly those in rural communities, SNAP sales account for an average of 25% of revenue. In an industry already known for its tight margins, a loss of this revenue stream could be devastating. If SNAP benefits are cut, the mom and pop grocery stores and small chains will be deeply affected. This can lead to job loss and have a negative economic impact for communities across our state. Senators, this is not a political issue, this is a people issue. Everyone deserves to have food on their tables, and grocery stores deserve to have every opportunity to thrive in this challenging economy. SNAP is the best way to do both. Thank you. And I would now like to turn it over to my partner in crime, Lacey.
Thanks, AJ. I am providing a personal testimony of my mom today. My name is Lacey Duvernoy, and I work at the Community Food Club in Kent County. My mom grew up in Missaukee County to hardworking parents that thankfully did not need government benefits. She moved to Genesee County, where I grew up, and in that time, unfortunate circumstances arose, and she was a single parent to 4. For 10 years, my mom was on a combination of WIC and SNAP benefits. As she would want you to know, she was not a generational welfare recipient. She is grateful that the government is looking into exemptions for work requirements for able-bodied people, and measures are being taken into looking into nutrition for government assistance programs. My mom has always lived by working hard to get herself out of her situation. During her time on benefits, she worked not only her SNAP requirements, but any overtime possible to meet all of her bills. As a working single mother, WIC and SNAP were not handouts, they were hand-ups. These allowed her to not worry about making sure her children were fed, or if they would go cold in the middle of the winter. They allowed us to move from a trailer that leaked from the ceiling to a rental that we could actually play outside. In 2006, that meant she felt she could take a leap to a higher paying job. And even though she still qualified for these programs, she could get off of them. In her words, if I had to worry about my kids being healthy and surviving, I would have never left my job. If I didn't have SNAP at the time and I was barely managing then, I would not have taken the step to better myself in the event that I failed. I wouldn't be where I am today if I was uncertain my kids were going to be fed, and if it came down to paying a bill or feeding my children, I would feed my children. If you cut these benefits, it is no longer an option for families to better themselves. because they are concentrating on surviving. The ones that are using WIC and SNAP as a hand up are the ones that will be hurt the most in this cut. In Michigan, as you should be aware from previous presentations, 78% of households on SNAP have at least one working person in that household, and 23% of children in Michigan are on food assistance. These benefits are a hand up for those residents. My mom did not have to choose between feeding my siblings and paying for her Michigan services. Why would we encourage that choice for our future workforce? Why would we encourage parents to make difficult decisions and ultimately perpetuate their low-income existence by removing some or all of their hand up? Real people will sacrifice for their families. They will sacrifice their light bills, their rent, their own nutrition, which will impact their job performance. They will do this because their families need to be fed, and I watched my mom do that for years. My mom sacrificed and produced 4 children who are currently not on government benefits, who are working residents of Michigan, and who will also have families and need to make these tough choices in the future. She would not be where she is today, stable and middle class, if it were not for her SNAP hand up. When the decision comes to decide SNAP allocations, my hope is that this committee and other legislators think about the next generation of people who will be working. Don't take away the hand up for Michigan residents. Give them the opportunity to get off of these benefits like Michigan legislators gave my mom 20 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We really appreciate it. I'm not seeing any questions immediately, so I'm going to take the opportunity to invite the next individual up to the podium, which is Stephanie Rubel, the Manager of Operations at Catholic Charities of Southeast Michigan.
Hi.
Hello, Ms. Rubel, please offer your testimony, and if you can keep it brief, so we greatly appreciate it. We can get a couple more people in.
Thank you, Chair Irwin and members of the committee, for allowing me an opportunity to testify. My name is Stephanie Rubel, and I'm the manager of pantry operations at Catholic Charities of Southeast Michigan. We deliver free groceries to 600 to 1,000 seniors in Metro Detroit every month, specifically those who are low income, disabled, or lack transportation, and we have a waiting list. If the federal government cuts benefits, it will be disastrous to our state's most vulnerable and those that serve them. I urge you to advocate for a federal budget that protects SNAP and do everything in your power to protect access to the program within our state. We pride ourselves on not only filling our seniors' belly, but also feeding their souls. We provide fresh produce, frozen items, dairy, meat, amongst other resources, and go out of our way to find things to help them lead a dignified life and age in place. These items help keep our seniors healthier, relieving pressure from the medical field and Medicaid, and now we are struggling to provide our seniors with healthy food options. Earlier this year, the USDA canceled $4.3 million of food slated for Michigan food banks. The strain that the food banks like ours already face will grow if the federal government cuts SNAP benefits. These benefits fill in the gaps that food banks like ours struggle to fill and help our grandparents fall asleep with a full stomach and a mind full of hope. My clients already struggle between having to choose food or paying for their medications. I have a client who had a possum fall through her ceiling onto her in her sleep because she cannot afford to fix up her home. I had a client who had not eaten for a week, and when I brought her food, she sobbed in my arms and prayed and thanked me. I had another client who answered the door wearing a plastic bag as a t-shirt because she could not afford more than one shirt and was washing the one she currently had. This is how our grandparents, our seniors, our veterans are having to live with the current funding levels as it is. If SNAP is cut, these stories will only become more common and more heartbreaking. The federal government has estimated that the proposed changes to work requirements would lead 1 million older adults aged 55 through 64 to lose access to SNAP every month. These changes would also harm those older than 64. When working age adults lose access to SNAP, their entire household receives less food benefits, putting our seniors who live with their children or family members at greater risk for hunger. I call upon you today to save our seniors, to support my 65-year-old volunteer who spends 20 hours a week moving groceries so our seniors don't have to live on dried beans and rice every day. To save my 95-year-old client who can't see but still tries to help our driver carrying groceries so that she won't have to worry about whether she can have electricity and pay her light bill this month. I call upon you to give the gift of dignity to our most vulnerable. I call upon you to be a hero and advocate for a federal budget that saves SNAP. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Thank you for being here and for the work you do to fill some of the gaps that our government is leaving behind. I want to recognize Senator Schenck to ask you a question.
Thank you, Chair. You talked about some of the things that your clients go through because they don't have as much money as would be optimal. One of the things I've noticed about some older people when they don't eat is that they start to have medical situations that then require emergency care, which is incredibly expensive compared to just supplying them with adequate food. I wonder if you have any stories that you could talk about where somebody, if they, that maybe something was avoided and, I don't know what stories you have. I'm just wondering if you could elucidate on that a little more, because I do know even among older people who I know that can be an issue.
So I actually have a lot of stories, but my most significant one was I had a client who was, she had breast cancer, and she could not access healthy food to fit her diet according to her chemotherapy, and she became very sick and was hospitalized. Her family called me, and they signed her up, and she did end up going home very shortly after we signed her up, and we started sending her fresh food, and I'm happy to give you the news that she is in remission. She has been for 3 years, and that she's living a healthy, happy life, and she's lost 45 pounds due to our program. So, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Schenck. And thank you again for your testimony. Next, I want to call up Ashley Anderson and Dr. Pat Wells from the Corner Health Center. Thank you for being here, and if you could both try to keep your testimony brief, that allows us more time to maybe squeeze in one more person before we all have to close up for other committees. So thank you for your time, and please offer your testimony.
I'm the medical director at the Corner Health Center in Ypsilanti, where we provide care for adolescents and young adults, most of whom live in households experiencing economic hardship. As a pediatrician of over 30 years, I've seen firsthand how SNAP benefits protect children's health, stability, and economic potential. So I'm always happy to talk about my patients, right? I wanted to tell you today about Kayla, a bright and thoughtful teenager referred to us about 2 years ago, when her teacher thought she might have ADHD and her mom wanted her placed on meds. Her mom, it turned out, had lost her full-time job after their only car had broken down and she had no way to get to work. She was juggling 2 gig jobs just to keep the family afloat. They were barely getting by when I met Kayla. I was struck by how intelligent and insightful she was, but also by her poor health. Her hair was thinning, her acne was severe, she was overweight, and she picked at her skin constantly. She'd been in the ER for headaches several times in the past 2 months. Her clothes weren't clean. Her teachers noted that she often appeared distracted, that she missed school frequently, and that she was falling behind. Her family was doing everything they could, but with limited income, they constantly had to choose between food, rent, utilities, and healthcare, and other essentials, right? Meals weren't a sure thing, and when they did have meals, they had to be expensive and filling, like ramen noodles, which, as we know, are filled with salt and have very poor nutritional value. Our case manager luckily got involved and helped her mom apply not only for Medicaid, but also for SNAP, food relief. Over time, we really saw very incremental, but very real change. With SNAP, they could afford those fresh fruits, the vegetables, and protein. Kayla came to our cooking classes. She started following TikTok influencers to learn how to prep food and how to make inexpensive meals. Her energy and her focus improved. They stopped getting food from convenience stores and gas stations. Her brother was sick less often, she missed fewer school days, and her grades improved. SNAP helped restore the stability they needed to stay housed, warm, and in school. From a medical standpoint, it helped me recognize that Kayla didn't have ADHD, she didn't have generalized anxiety disorder, and she didn't need stimulants or Prozac. What she needed was nutritional support, food security, and a health care system with the tools to help her access both. And this is what we mean when we say nutrition is healthcare. Healthy food is medicine. In all of your communities, SNAP doesn't just fill bellies, it restores capacity. The ability to work effectively, the ability to grow, to concentrate, to sleep, to recover from illness, and to thrive. We know that poor nutrition is linked to impaired memory, sleep disturbance, fatigue, mood disorders, and behavioral challenges. Skipping meals or the stress of not knowing whether or not there'll be dinner makes it nearly impossible for a child to focus in school or a worker to do their work effectively. Deficiencies in key nutrients like iron and vitamin D are tied to fatigue, anxiety, and depression. Food insecure children are more likely to miss school and fall behind on homework. SNAP helps prevent these harms. It promotes school attendance, academic success, and mental well-being. Prevention saves money. Measure twice, cut once, right? I'm from a heating and cooling family. Just as insulating a building helps reduce heating costs, ensuring consistent access to nutritious food reduces the long-term burden on our healthcare system. By cutting SNAP, we are ripping away that insulation. We're creating cracks in the sidewalks that our kids will fall through on their way to school. As a physician, my job is firstly to do no harm. By cutting SNAP food relief, we are creating harm. So I urge you to go back and to protect and sustain SNAP. It's a lifeline for families like Kayla's, for those living on the margins, for schools and for businesses, for all your communities, and for the future of children. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for just taking the time to listen to us today. We appreciate you. My name is Ashley Anderson. I'm the Director of Programs at Corner Health Center. At Corner, we provide medical, mental health, social services, health education that youth ages 12 through 25 and their children have come to rely on, many of whom also use SNAP, WIC, Michigan Food Assistance Program to survive. I'm here today not just as a professional, but as someone who sees hunger up close every single day. My team and I, we are in the community every single day. On the weekends, we're having the interface outside of the clinic walls, and so the things that we see, they're happening in real time. Last week, a patient came in panicked because their SNAP benefits have been put on hold. They were working full-time but couldn't afford to eat. They told us, without SNAP, I can't prep meals before or after work. I feel afraid. They were beyond grateful for our food pantry, which, once again, as I already mentioned, is strained. Resources are strained. And even asked for a list of nearby pantries to try and fit one in between shifts and bus rides. 45% of food insecure individuals don't qualify for benefits. So this story is not an anomaly. Just yesterday, as we were prepping for this testimony, a social worker got an email from a young mother who had gone through our maternal infant health program. Her SNAP benefits ran out. She has no food. Her phone is disconnected because she used her last dollars to buy groceries. She has been in this cycle before, falling behind on rent, utilities, and sometimes returning to abusive relationships, which we've heard other testimonies about the same cycle. One of those times, her children witnessed an assault triggering CPS, police, and the court's involvement, all of which cost the state money, exponentially more than just getting her some food. A staff person and a former SNAP recipient personally purchased food and dropped it off to her home yesterday. SNAP is the most efficient tool, or effective, let me say it's the most effective tool that we currently have against food insecurity. It reduces hospitalizations, supports children's development, and protects health. In 2023, we spent an average of $14,000 per person on health care in this country. If we don't address food insecurity, that number will only continue to rise because hunger leads to weakened immune systems, poor mental health, and chronic disease. This isn't just a safety net issue, it's an economic, healthcare, and moral issue. If these cuts go through, Michigan will be forced to absorb $761 million in added SNAP costs. That's 284 million meals lost. Every dollar cut from SNAP is a dollar taken from grocery stores, farmer markets, family dinner tables, and especially in rural communities. As lawmakers, you have the power to stop this. We're asking you to advocate fiercely with our federal legislators to protect SNAP, WIC, EFSP, and the Michigan Food Assistance Program. One of the things that struck me the most was that it's projected that every year the cost of the healthcare expenditures will increase by $1,000 per individual, and that does not include the current legislation that is on the table. Cutting SNAP, cutting nutrition, it's going to affect more than just how much food I can buy. You've heard all the testimonies today, so we are just asking you to fight fiercely to not allow legislation like this to do more harm.
Thank you for your testimony. Thank you for the amazing work that you are doing in Ypsilanti. Thank you for pointing out that some of these proposed cuts are so penny wise and pound foolish. You know, they cost more than they save. So I really appreciate that point. I'm not seeing any questions from committee members, so I'll thank you again. And then I think we have time for one more. My remaining committee members might try to grab me and stop me, but we have room for one more I think we can squeeze in. So let me call up Courtney Morrow, United Community Family Services. If you could offer your testimony, we would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
5 minutes and 9 seconds, okay?
Hopefully less. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Courtney Morrow. I live in Detroit, and I work in Troy as Director of Development at United Community Family Services, or UCFS. UCFS has been serving the community for almost 65 years, primarily refugees, and in our food pantry, we serve anyone in need. I'm here to talk about the potential cuts on the table and how the House of Representatives' proposal to bar refugees and asylum seekers from receiving SNAP will impact the people that we serve. These programs are important to me not only professionally, but also personally, as I've witnessed the impact that they have on families in our community firsthand. In the throes of the pandemic in 2021, 267 families came to our food pantry for help. In 2022, 425. And the following year in 2023, that number doubled to 856 families. And please note that this was the last time that there were major cuts to SNAP when the pandemic era emergency allotments ended. Last year, that number grew to 1,316 families facing hunger just in our area. I would like to emphasize that this is not the number of visits to our pantry or the number of meals that we provided, but the number of families who needed help finding food to eat. A portion of the food provided at our food pantry is funded by the Emergency Food and Shelter Program, or EFSP. It's a federal program that disperses money to local organizations to help families access food and housing. In January, these funds were frozen, and despite multiple court orders to release them, we've yet to receive an award or even a rejection notice. Typically, UCFS receives $10,000 in EFSP funds per year, and that's over 5,000 pounds of food that we have not been able to provide to families in need this year. We also rely on donations from local grocers like Jay's Fruit Market and Imperial Fresh Market and many more. But proposed SNAP cuts would hurt these small businesses as well. With fewer SNAP purchases, they will lose revenue, and these small businesses will struggle to stay afloat, let alone donate extra food. We're facing potentially losing an important source of food right as the need for it will increase. SNAP, WIC, and EFSP are crucial to the entire economy, including the sustainability of the nonprofits who will have to pick up the slack. If eligibility requirements become more complex, these same nonprofits will be the ones who carry the burden of helping clients navigate this red tape and try to access the support. Cuts to these programs will negatively impact the overall well-being of real families. These are families like Roger, his wife, and his 9-year-old twin boys. Roger had served as a military officer in his home country, often assisting U.S. forces. As a direct result of working with the U.S., his family faced death threats and extreme violence. They fled, and they were lawfully admitted to the U.S. and turned to our agency for support. Roger told our case managers that if he could just get by, he could rebuild his life for his family here. And for this former military officer, getting by meant food support through SNAP and our EFSP-funded pantry. With this help, Roger used it as a hand up to find stable work and earn a promotion, and he now supports his family. And today he volunteers 20 hours a month in our pantry to give back to the community and feed people in need. This is only one example of an American dream that would never have come to fruition without SNAP and EFSP. And under the proposed changes, asylum seekers and refugees like Roger would be cut from the support that they need to thrive and to survive. A year ago, Natalia's main concern about leaving her abusive husband was, how will I feed my children? We've heard this story a couple of times today. Even when you are in physical danger, feeding your children is your first concern. UCFS helped her secure SNAP and WIC support, and we provided food funded by EFSP, and with the assurance that she could feed her children, she found the courage to leave her husband and start over. Natalia and her 2 children would not be in a safe place right now, and they may not even be with us if it were not for these programs. Tariq and his wife are an elderly couple who had a fire in their apartment last year, and while they were able to make it out safely, their main concern quickly became, how would they eat? With SNAP benefits and the EFSP-funded food from our pantry, they could at least cross this most basic need off of their list of concerns. Cutting SNAP, WIC, and EFSP and stopping refugees and asylum seekers who followed the legal process to enter this country from benefiting from these programs will not save money, and it will not improve efficiencies now or in the long run. To some, it is a number in a budget to be toggled, which is an important consideration, but in reality, for many people, these cuts will take food out of the mouths of people who need it most, like Roger, Natalia, Tariq, and many other people that we've heard in stories today, and their families. It will have a detrimental and generational negative impact on our economy, our health, our people's ability to live in every sense of the word. So I urge you to please advocate for a federal budget that protects access to these programs for refugees and asylum seekers and everyone else who uses them as a hand up. And please continue to work to provide assistance for these people in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming today to give voice to the important people that you serve. I'm not seeing any questions from my committee members. So what I want to say is to the folks who weren't able to testify because of our technical issues, or to anyone else who wants to make sure that their views are reflected in the committee record, please send your written comments to the email the clerk put in the Zoom chat. For those of you who might not be on the Zoom chat, the clerk's email is right on the committee webpage, which you should easily be able to find through Google. This is the Senate Committee on Housing and Human Services. So we want to make sure anybody who has commentary on this issue has that included in the official record. And I want to conclude by just thanking everyone who took time out of their day to help bring individual voice, to help tell some of the stories behind people who depend on food assistance, whether those are retailers or folks who are needing those dollars to make sure that their family gets the nutrition that they need. So with that, I want to say that with no further business before the Senate Committee on Housing and Human Services, the committee is adjourned.